Hey everyone, welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where everyone is our number one. And we teach future Survivor players how to play the game by criticizing past and sometimes current players. I'm one of your hosts, Derek Kubicek, and today I am super excited to be revisiting, or I guess to be visiting for the first time, episode 4 of season 43 of Survivor.
Which is called Vibe of the Tribe. It rhymes.
It rhymes. I'm joined today in person by one fabulous co-host, Ryan Stacy.
Hey everyone, I'm your resident Survivor superfan who feels very stupid tonight. I was off my game with just terrible takes throughout this entire episode. Derek can attest to this, that I was so wrong at one point. Like hilariously impossible to get worse wrong. And we'll bring that up when we get to it. But yeah, you know, I consider myself your resident Survivor superfan, but I think Josh would have to take that title tonight because I'm not there. I was on, I think 2 weeks ago. I knew everything there was to know about everything. Tonight, I don't think I know anything about anything.
But you can know other things tonight. And then joined remotely by the third co-host, back from Reginald Kenneth Dwight, Josh Wessler.
Oh, hello guys. Good to be back. I don't know if I'm quite ready to take the title of Ultimate Superfan away from Ryan, but that is one of the things that I do miss about watching this in person with you guys is I can't see your beautiful faces reacting to the episode because I was pretty spot on with my predictions during the episode, so that's kind of surprising.
It was more where we started and where we ended up. So it was the progression and the way those progressions had a 0 turn radius. I feel like we were going one direction and then all of a sudden we were going in another one. But
gotcha. I'm excited to hear what those predictions were. But yes, I did miss last week. Got to see the great Elton John.
Is that who it was?
Dude's a legend. Like you gotta see him, and it's his farewell tour, and there's definitely not going to be another farewell tour like he did last time. And so I decided just screw it, I'll go see it, and screw the podcast. Watch Survivor a day late, and of course I missed one of the best episodes and one of the best tribals in years. Yep. So it serves me right.
Yeah, serves you right. That's what you get for not making this your number one priority.
But I did listen to you guys, and it was all right. You guys were fine without me.
Darn right we were.
I did have to break a tiebreaker, though, is what I heard. So people who follow us on Twitter would have already seen this. But my best for the episode, I actually disagreed with you guys. I went with Jonathan last week just because he went God mode on the challenge. I know High was great, honorable mention, but I went Jonathan. But more importantly, as a tiebreaker, my worst of the episode was Chanel. The move was just inexcusable at Mystery Adventure Island. So wanted to throw that in there at the beginning of the episode here just so we got all caught up.
Thank you, Josh. I really appreciate you throwing your weight behind me on that one.
No problem.
I mean, like we said in the podcast then, we were we had 2 clear choices, and I'm not upset with either. But other than that, I mean, very quickly, what did you guys think of the episode tonight? I thought that the episode in general was, maybe lukewarm. It was fine.
See, this episode would have been better if someone at CBS hadn't screwed up during the premiere episode when they did here's what we're doing this season. And they spoiled this episode. I knew who was not going home.
Really?
Yep.
I saw some of that on Twitter too. Now I have no idea what they're talking about, but I'm almost kind of spoiled, even though I didn't actually see the video.
Yeah, so I won't say it if you two don't know it then. I won't say it on the podcast, so don't worry. But yeah, they showed something of a future event. It hasn't happened yet. So that person who's involved can't go home until that happens. Yeah. So therefore, I knew what was going to happen. So that's 2 tribal councils with this tribe where I've known someone was safe. And so that really, really sucks. So someone at CBS screwed up and kind of ruined my enjoyment of the episode. It was already kind of a whatever episode, and I'm actively irritated.
That's really interesting because CBS did something like this. Survivor didn't have control over their transitions, and they showed a certain tribe walking to tribal before the immunity challenge had even occurred.
Yep.
Was that season 40 or season 39?
What season was that?
But I remember Jeff saying, "Oh, don't worry, we're in charge of that stuff now." Well, Did it shift back to CBS?
Or did someone at Survivor screw up? Some intern just messed up.
So I'm sorry that you that you're not able to experience this live with us at times. That's a bummer.
Yep, big old bummer. Josh, what did you think?
I thought it was a decent episode. There was a lot of back and forth that I really liked. We actually got to see all 3 tribes, so that was nice.
Yeah.
But overall, I feel like it was a lot of like neutral gameplay. Like there was stuff that happened during the episode, but I feel like it wasn't like huge swings one way or the other.
Yeah, I'll agree. I think this episode was more about touching base than it was about really developing any characters or any games any more comprehensively. I mean, we had to check in on Vati Tribe, because that was an epic,
explosive,
epic explosive tribal council. And we got back to Ika because they were they were basically Bran in season 5 of Game of Thrones, and then Taku is just winning.
Yep,
they keep winning. So anyway,
should we jump into this thing?
Let's jump in.
Yep.
All right, so the episode begins on the Vati tribe where we have the fallout of that awesome tribal council that Josh missed. Sad day. So we have people doing a variety of different things. Daniel is terrible because he does not want to talk about what happened at tribal council. He wants to wait until the morning. Bruh, you need to be on damage control right now because he knows his game is in huge trouble. And he's not doing anything to fix it. Doesn't do anything this whole episode to fix it.
You need to be in Survivor. You need to be proactive. At this point, Daniel needs to be reactive. But he could be proactive by being reactive. Have you ever heard the saying, "Never go to bed angry"? Why are you going to let your entire tribe go to bed angry at you? And granted, they have just as much reason to be angry at Chanel. But Chanel is also just like, "Hey, I want to talk about this now. Let's get this figured out." I think that might end up making a difference.
Oh, I think it made a huge difference because no one seemed to be mad at Chanel. She's like, "You were throwing me under the bus. I didn't have a vote." And in the confessional, she admits, like, going after Lydia was my idea. I'm not going to say that, which is the right move. So Chanel just yeets Daniel right under that bus and runs him over a couple of times. But by basically almost doing nothing, she kind of let Daniel – she does a little bit, but Daniel digs his own grave big time.
Yeah. We posted a fun GIF of someone digging themselves a hole. I believe that was our Twitter manager, Josh, who posted that in mid-episode. That was fantastic.
That was Daniel to a T.
Visual representation. And by the way, I want to go back just a second to the last episode because this is all about Daniel and what he's just doing to implode. Brian, I can't believe we didn't trash him for saying out loud why he shouldn't win Survivor.
Yes.
Like he actually said the words, "This is why I won't win." But anyways,
at least he didn't say that he shouldn't win.
That's true. It's not Colby levels of bad.
And Chanel, the other thing she does is she tells everyone, like, "Hey, Daniel told me that Mike has an idol but has no vote." And so like blows up the relationship between Daniel and Mike even more. So I really liked Chanel's game in the post trial. This is, if each round of gameplay is the musical chairs, this is like the first obstacle in this new game of musical chairs. And it's a really important one. And Chanel, I thought, did a fantastic job.
If you're going to fracture, you want to be on the correct side of the fracture. And I think by separating Mike and Daniel even further yet, it increases her odds of winding up somewhat in a majority.
Yeah, because Daniel was trying basically to end up in a top 3 here at the end of last tribal. So if you can somehow just supplant him and get in a majority, or maybe you can even get 4 people together, everyone against Daniel, then that works too.
Hai and Mike have a talk away from everyone else, and basically Mike tells his side of the story and all that stuff. Hai does he did change his vote at tribal council. That was like a gut decision at the last minute. And Mike wants Daniel out next, so the two of them agree to work together. So from the ashes of the Phoenix rise, and we have a new alliance of Mike and Hai. So we'll see how this goes.
And by proxy, Lydia,
Yeah, and I mean, I that's great for Mike.
Great for Hai, too.
I think it's important to note that Hai and Lydia aren't in the clear here yet.
Nope.
They're still just a twosome, and it is a long shot, but Daniel, Chanel, and Mike could all still get together and be a threesome. As long as Mike gets his vote back, they could be a threesome to still take out those other 2. So they're still not in the clear yet. So good to try to cross the bridge there for High and Mike.
It's an interesting social mechanic for Mike because given the earthquakes, the tectonic plates shifting on Vati, he has no vote. He could pledge his loyalty to everybody, and he has absolutely no way to prove that loyalty until the murder.
Or destroy that.
He could pull a real Swathi here.
Yeah.
Tell everyone, hey, you're my number one. He was number one.
We'll let bygones be bygones.
At the reward challenge, only one tribe can win. It's Taku, because Jonathan destroys everyone. The Taku tribe does it together, but Jonathan also.
Yeah, everyone. I think it helped that Jonathan was tall enough to lift the braided ropes over the top of everybody. But they got through the ropes portion of that course so fast. And then, of course, he grabbed the sled with the ring. He is probably our best challenge performer that we've seen since like Joey Amazing.
Yeah, I would say so. We don't talk about him.
And we don't like to talk about Joey Amazing anymore.
But after the challenge, Jonathan, Jeff is doing his talk with everyone, and Jonathan mentions how his tribe is just like a super tight four, and they work super well together. That's not great. Now everyone that comes into the merge and like, well, we got to target the Taku 4. Jonathan's going to be the merge boot.
Yeah, just because you're good athletically and in challenges and are just dominating doesn't mean that you're a strong foursome. There could be giant rifts in this tribe and no one would know, until you confirm it after the challenge.
Just be careful what you say to Jeff.
The right answer is, these last couple challenges have really played to our strengths, and all we can do is try and keep the momentum going forward. That is the answer.
Yep, the non-answer.
These challenges have really applied to our strengths. Me, Jonathan.
or maybe just like joke around and be like, I guess I'm just amazing, Jeff. And then you get back to camp and tell everyone like, I just wanted to take the bullets for you guys. That would have been really funny. Don't actually do that. It's bad advice, but it'd be funny.
Can we call him Johnny Amazing?
Let's stay away from the amazing.
Give him the nickname.
Stupendous.
And Jonathan does say like, I shouldn't have said that. And Marianne and Omar are like, you shouldn't have said that.
It's the case of your mouth moving a little faster than your brain.
Yeah. And then we're done with Taku, basically. I guess we'll see him at the challenge, but we're not going to see him again for the rest of the episode. Same with Vati. Yeah, this is all Ika for the rest. We got to make up for last week. At Ika, Roxroy continues to suck at this game. He just bossy and tells everyone what to do, and everyone's just kind of sucking it up because he's the perfect person to take to the end with you.
And this is despite Drea, I think in episode 1, at least when it was aired, telling him, hey, you might want to scale it back. Yep. A little bit. Hey, tell me if I'm being too much. You're being too much. Just thanks for opening the door and then not listening.
So Swathi, she wants to take out Dre next because Dre's got an extra vote. So she pulls in Tori to try and make that happen. And Tori doesn't want to work with Roxroy, but Swathi's like, we need him to make this work though, because Dre and Romeo are really close. So Tori, to her credit, even though she doesn't want to work with Roxroy, she does put that aside to try and build up a bond with him. She goes to him. She's like, wow, Roxroy, you're just the best. We would be so screwed without you. Just like butters him up. It seems to work, but at the same time, Roxroy's like, she's still next.
I agree. And I think that's a credit to Tori's social intuition. I don't want to say her social game, but her social intuition in understanding that Roxroy was not really going to be on board with this plan. But she also knows that she's 5 out of 5, which means, okay, I got to put in the legwork because I need Swathi to want to work with me. And that means that I have to stick my neck out. And that means me talking to Roxroy. And of course, Roxroy being Roxroy is immediately going to go spill all the beans to Drea and Romeo about everything.
Well, yeah, because Roxroy wants her out.
Yes.
So, he's got no reason to not keep her secret. So because Tori tells Roxroy, like, hey, do you know Drea's got an extra vote? And so we have this confessional where Roxroy's like, yeah, Tori came up to me and, she's next. And for some reason, she wants Drea out. It's like, dude, she wants anybody out, but also Drea because she has an extra vote. You obtuse mother effer. I don't know.
That's a very polite way of saying it.
I don't know if Roxroy has ever seen this show. I really don't.
You can be a fan and see the show and still not be able to put the pieces together.
Yeah,
don't put him on the puzzle because he ain't able to put any pieces together.
it was a rough time. And I understand the idea of being so loyal that you won't even entertain other alliances
Which is stupid.
Because, you know, maybe Tori can then go to Romeo and Andrea and say, oh, Roxroy was hearing me out, or Roxroy proposed to vote you out too. And they'll be like, Roxroy? Really? Are you sure? I feel like someone like Roxroy has way more flexibility if he could put it aside, because no one would suspect him of wrongdoing.
Yeah, he's solid as a boulder.
Yeah. I see what you did there.
So Roxroy, he tells Drea and Swathi that Tori told him about the extra vote. So it's like, oh, well, we can't trust Tori with anything.
Tori is stuck between a rocks and a hard place.
Stupid.
And so Drea, Roxroy, and Romeo, they are now like anti-Tori. Tori's next. And Swathi's like, ew, yikes. I'm kind of caused all this, but I'm not going to say anything. And I'm just going to scuttle my way back to the majority.
And I like this portion of the episode, the way that she just falls back in line. Yep. Tori is next. Pay no attention.
So we're going to the immunity challenge, which Taku destroys, thanks to Jonathan.
Yeah, you know, I think that at this point, Jeff should have just equipped Taku's boat with a Mercury 120 outboard motor. It would have handicapped him. I mean, they would have gone slower.
Like, he is just hauling ass, basically, just right in the front of the boat here. And I would say that, like, he's just gonna burn out of energy, but they just had 10 fish.
Yeah.
So go for it, man.
The shot to me is Marianne getting tugged behind the boat, getting tugged by Jonathan. He's swimming faster than her with a boat tied to his neck.
She was basically an anchor at this point.
And that's not just to discredit Marianne. Jonathan was swimming so fast.
So Drea and Swathi, they're in second. So Ika's in second, but Drea and Swathi, well, it's mostly Drea. She blows the puzzle because she drops a section of it. If they hadn't dropped it, I think they would have won.
I think that they would have been able to pull it out.
So close.
Yeah.
Drea blows the puzzle for her tribe, allowing Vati to come in with Lydia and Chanel. They lead a comeback on the puzzle to get second. So Ika's going back to tribal council.
So when you were saying that, like, you didn't really know what was going on during that, or like maybe like your predictions were off, was this like one of the things? Because I actually before the challenge, I'm like, editing wise, it just feels like it's going to be blue here.
See, I didn't think Ika was going to go to tribal council, but here was where my big prediction blew up. So we went into the commercial break and we were just talking about like the Ika tribe and who could go and stuff like that. And I went through all the names. And I'm like, well, Swathi, we got Swathi's not going. There's no reason they vote out Swathi. Cut to as we're going to tribal council. I'm like, well,
whoopsies.
Bye, Swathi. And then I turned to Derek. I'm like, hey, Derek, remember my prediction earlier when I was 100% wrong about everything?
It's never 100%.
Oh man, yeah, I would have bet money that Swathi was not going.
I think anyone would have.
So we're going. Ika's doing some scheming and plot, and Roxroy wants Tori out, and then that's it for Roxroy. We're done with him now.
Yep, no more.
He wants Tori out.
We're done talking to Roxroy. Everything that we're gonna do from here on out is done excluding him.
Yep, literally everything.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. Romeo and Tori and Drea, they all end up talking and comparing notes. And between the three of them, they all figure out that Swathi has gone up to each of them and said, dude, you're my number one. You're my number one. You know you're my number one. To all three of them. And they do flashbacks. Cue the montage sequence of Swathi. Like, we have the evidence. And Derek, you had a great comparison.
This was Aubrey when she's like,
back
hey,
on the edge of extinction.
I want to start a dialogue. Hey, I'm just looking to start a dialogue with you. Hey, I'm just looking to, start a dialogue. I just, in some Survivor multiverse, Swathi and Aubrey are having this conversation. Hey, I'm just trying to start a dialogue. Wow, that's so crazy. You've been my number one since we landed on the beach. And then, I don't know, a black hole forms. I'm not sure, but
you cannot use the same turn of phrase with literally everyone on your tribe. You can't do that.
We advocate for making multiple alliances and having at least, even if they're not your number one, having sub-alliances throughout the tribe. That is completely different than saying, you're my number one over and over again.
She copy-pasted her strategy. Control-C, Control-V, just subbed out the names.
Do you guys think that she told Roxroy that too?
Yes.
God, I hope so.
They were sitting together scheming in episode 1.
Yep.
And it seemed like they were a duo, at least for a little bit. I almost guarantee she said it to him. Props for having a strategy, for trying to make everybody believe that you're their number one. And you know what? Maybe it worked until day, like whatever we're on,
Day
9. We're on day 9. It worked for 9 days. And then, the rest of the class decided to compare notes.
Yep. So Swathi senses something's wrong, and she tries to do some damage control with Drea. And it's like, hey, remember Tori was going after you? I mean, yes, in the first episode she was, but in this episode it was you, Swathi. But I like to throw under the bus. Very nice attempt. So, points for effort, Swathi. A for effort.
And I mean, remember that this is also a shortened season, so this could have only been a few days ago that happened. So, short-term memory, and even if it was just a few days ago, it can be like, hey, remember that like just happened? Like she was going for you.
One thing I don't want to undersell about Swathi's attempt at damage control, she is lying.
Yes. Because
when Drea was trying to form the all-women's alliance, when she swam away, it was Swathi who said, let's just get out Drea. So I don't want to undersell the fact that Swathi might just not have been able to lie well enough. They might have been able to see it on her face, and Tori's just thinking to herself, the truth shall set me free today. I did not do it. You guys reasoned this out for yourself. Wouldn't I be scrambling more if I was lying?
And the other thing with Swathi, she's 20.
And I understand that.
I think in 10 years she'd be a great Survivor player. I think she's just too young.
It's possible. It's possible, because we always say, you don't act your age on Survivor.
Yep.
Unless, you're a very politically sound person between the ages of 28 and 34. Then you can pretty much be yourself.
Yeah.
But
so we're going to Tribal Council, and Swathi's going to keep swinging with throwing Tori under the bus, but this is something you need to do back at camp, not at Tribal Council. Trying to stir up a live tribal is not going to work. You have to have these conversations one-on-one back at camp. And maybe she did, and it's just like doing a Hail Mary here. But this, I would hope she had these conversations back at camp more than just at Tribal.
Yeah, it's a bold move to try and air the dirty laundry at Tribal right off the bat. Like, Jeff wasn't even done warming up. At least the cut that we got, Jeff wasn't even done warming up. And Swathi's like, Jeff, I'm going to stop you right there. Tori is a snake, and I want her gone.
Go ahead.
I think she knew that she was going home, and I know this doesn't happen for another like couple of people, but when Rockboy ended up basically like saying like, Swathi, she said that she was not like really shy. Well, she really came out of her shell. I want to applaud her for that. Like that immediately is a dead giveaway to me. If I'm Swathi, just like, oh no, he's basically talking about me in past tense here.
Even though he did not vote for Swathi.
Yeah, which, now that I say that, that's really odd for him to say that.
So we'll get into that in a second. I got some questions there. Tori ends up throwing all this back in Swathi's face and is much more like calm and relaxed about it. Like, yeah, well, say what you got to say, but you're a liar.
This is called projection. She pulled out the therapist terms.
Yeah. So Swathi's going to play her shot in the dark. It fails. It's going to end up being 3 votes for Tori, 1 for Swathi. Roxroy votes incorrectly. So did he know that Tori was safe and Swathi was going, but refused to vote for Swathi, or did he not know? Was he left in the dark?
I think that he just didn't know. Like we had said when they were talking on the beach, we were basically saying like, oh, Roxroy basically said like, it's Tori, okay, cool, confirmed it, and then we never see him again. I want to say that is what actually happened on the beach, where he actually didn't talk to anyone else until Tribal. And he actually thought that Tori was going home. I don't actually know. That's just me assuming, but I could definitely see that.
And I agree. I think that Roxroy was honestly just on the outs of the social understanding. However, I will say, if all you showed me was the voting recap and I knew nothing about the players, I would say that was a pretty darn good strategy in case Swathi's shot in the dark worked. And then Tori is the de facto person to go out. So there is that piece to it, but maybe, Drea and Romeo were like, we don't need him.
Yeah, that's a big question. Was Rox, if it was a split, that's pretty clever. I don't want to give Roxroy that much credit.
You'd think we'd have seen it.
So, maybe we'll find out next week and we'll adjust these accordingly. I could see Romeo or Drea coming up with something like this, but we didn't see it. And so all we have is like our guesses with what we've seen of these characters, and I'm not giving Rockstar any benefit of the doubt ever at any time.
Well, do you think that if the shot in the dark did end up working, and there's a revote, do you think Rockstar was in trouble, or did they go back to Tori?
There wouldn't have been a revote. It would have been 3-1, and Tori would have gone home.
Sorry, if Rockstar had voted with them.
Okay, so if Rockstar had voted with them, Swathi's now safe. We're doing a revote. Swathi can't vote. Then it would be 3 votes for Tori, 1 for Rocksroy, maybe.
Think so? Okay.
I think so.
But throwing the 1 vote on Tori, like let's say it was a strategy, that would prevent Tori from going AWOL with Swathi and throwing a couple votes on someone else, and basically giving Tori the entire decision-making ability.
I don't think Season 42's cast have figured this stuff out yet. Like, because this is, they didn't see 41.
Yeah.
So I am inclined to believe that Rockstar was just left out. I think that's where I'm going to land.
And I until we have more information, I'm going to agree with that. But it's still fun to talk about what if.
Totally.
Oh yeah, and I can't wait for the day that we actually do get a shot in the dark that succeeds. If you combine it with 41, this is the 4th one.
Yep.
So chances we're getting close to being due.
One of the next 2 should do it.
Guaranteed. That's how odds work. It's guaranteed to hit in the next 2.
Mutual exclusivity does not mean a thing with Shot in the Dark.
So Derek, would you say this was the right move to take out Swathi?
I think for Rocksroy, I think you want to keep the people who are most likely to work with you. And I do think that Tori is the least likely to work with him. So it makes sense for Rocksroy to vote out Tori. For Romeo and Andrea, if you find someone who's trying to play all sides this early in the pre-merge and caught in the middle of a lie, and the reason that you're voting out Tori is because she's shady and schemy and plotty, well, that's a toss-up. So I'm just going to have to trust them. I think that sending Tori and Swathi home are equally as good of moves at this point in time. So I'm satisfied with either.
Josh, what do you think?
I don't know if this is going to end up being a hot take, but I think that this was a terrible move. I thought that they should have gone with Tori here. You're debating between 2 kind of similar things, but they're still really different. Similar with basically finding out I don't think you can trust either of these people in Tori and Swathi. But with Tori, I feel like that's going to end up being a little bit more of a wild card that you can't trust, and versus Swathi is going to be, you don't know who her final person is going to end up being, who her actual number 1 is. So I think instead you could make yourself a strong, 3 or something, and just always know in the back of your head that you can't trust Swathi late in the game. You can't trust her to be your actual number 1. So maybe cut her before she ends up cutting you, but you can do that post-merge. You can do that sometime later and still pair with her now.
Josh, I 100% agree with you. You
Woo!
Could not have said it better. I think Tori, she's older, she's a little more experienced. She's more of a wild card. I think she's a more dangerous player. Swathi's young. She doesn't really know what she's doing, but she's someone you could string along, and if you lose again next week, you can cut her out and keep Rockstar, because Rockstar is going to do. So I think Tori would have been the right move just because she's a much more dangerous player than Swathi.
And I would have been in your guys' corner. I'll say like 75%, like tentatively, right? But there was that confessional with Drea where she said that her and Tori actually do get on really well. They have their moments where they are at odds, as is the case when you have 2 strongly opinionated people on a game show for $1 million. But I'm really trusting Drea that she feels that she has a strong rapport with Tori and a strong working relationship. And so that was just something that was in the edit that made me feel like, you know what, I'm going to trust their judgment on this.
She did say she can't trust either of them. So I think if you can't trust a snake, you have 2 snakes. You can't trust either of them, obviously. You get rid of the more venomous one.
Sure.
And here's the thing, is that Swathi doesn't know that you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very powerful, especially if you get Tori out, then there's now only 2 people who kind of know that secret, and Romeo and Drea could all of a sudden be, those 2 could be the power duo in the end.
I think they will be.
And I think they still will be. They just have to be really careful about Tori.
Yeah, they do. Tori could destroy everything.
Oh, yeah. We've seen that possibility.
By the way, Josh, did Twitter agree with us?
Yes.
And yeah, it was actually a pretty close vote. We have 57% of Twitter said that yes, the right person went home tonight.
Well, Twitter's wrong.
At least it was close, though.
Yep.
It was, that's very close. I mean, especially when you have, like 37 votes. Like, that's a couple of vote difference.
And this is not like a clear black and white answer. This is like a worthy of thought and discussion one.
Well, yeah, and I think either is a fine move. Like, sure. I'm fine with Tori going home. I'm fine with Swathi home. I do think that it was the wrong move. I think that there was a better of the two, but it's kind of like, yeah, sure, you can work with it still going forward.
They both need to go.
Yeah.
So let's get into best worst player of the episode. Josh, why don't you start us off? Why don't you give us your best player of the episode?
I struggled with so much just because I didn't think there was a whole lot of great gameplay. And even if you're looking at the Ika tribe, you kind of had that like mutual realization that they're all just like, oh, yeah, like this isn't working. We need to get Swathi out. But I think that there was one confessional that broke Romeo out above the others. It was when he was basically talking about almost the social awareness side of it a little bit more, when he was essentially just entertaining Roxroy around and just like, yes, Roxroy, yep, okay, yep, thanks for the direction, Roxroy. And then talking to the camera in confessional about like, I can't stand him. I don't need all this direction, but I'm just gonna let him think that he's helping out. That's really the only difference maker for me that raised Romeo above the other ones.
I went in a completely different direction, and I wasn't thrilled with the Ika tribe, just in general. So I decided to avoid them. I went over to Vati, and I'm giving mine to Chanel, just because I loved how she came back from camp and just yeeted Daniel right under that bus. Also, she and Lydia had that great comeback at the immunity challenge and saved their tribe from who knows what it would have been. So I'm going to give my best to Chanel.
For whatever it's worth, I had an honorable mention to Chanel for minimizing the blowback and really letting Daniel dig his own hole and somehow avoiding all of the shrapnel. So, like, good for Chanel on that. I actually ended up giving it to Tori. I'm a little surprised that nobody said that because, I mean, Tori has put herself in a bad spot coming into this episode, but the way she navigated the dynamic of her tribe in this episode, she was going home and then she wasn't. She was able to completely out-wordsmith Swathi in tribal council and say, you're projecting. This is something that she would do, and let Swathi dig her own grave and ultimately get herself sent home.
I did give her a Tori an honorable mention.
So I thought it had to be Tori. And my only response to Josh is about your best being Romeo. You said that they absolutely made 100% the wrong move. So I'm interested in why you would call him best.
I think that they made the worst of two moves, but I thought it was still fine. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, why did they do this? Like they're screwing up their game type of move.
So there's enough.
Yeah, it's on the positive side where like you get someone out that you can't fully trust, but there was still something better that could have been done. So that's the only reason why. My backup probably would have been Chanel, but I almost liked Mike and Hai a little bit better than her just because they actually made a one-to-one connection with each other, where Chanel almost was talking more to the group overall rather than making an actual alliance with an individual person. So that's really like when I talked right away at the beginning of the episode about like I felt like there was so much just neutral gameplay, like everyone was on the same playing field. That's kind of where I was getting that from, is I felt like everyone was kind of just like on the same level here.
Sure. Well, let's go into worst player. I'll go first this time. My worst player is Roxroy, just for his horrendous social game and his like steadfast to his own fault strategic game, and then being on the wrong side of the vote, for as far as we know.
For whatever it's worth, that's exactly who I had for exactly those reasons.
Yeah, it was. I kind of just defaulted to Roxroy as well. It was more that it was just more of the same from him. And there really wasn't like a ton of like negative stuff. Like Daniel's really the only other option that you could go with, but there wasn't enough there.
Yeah, I mean, my finalists from each tribe, or I guess from the other two, Daniel, obviously, because he kept digging a hole. But I feel like most of that damage was done in the previous episode. And then Jonathan for, opening up a little bit too much after a reward challenge. But I mean, he also had the confessional saying like, I'm super big, I'm super muscular. They were already coming for me. I might as well lean into it.
Fair.
So let's move into who is going next. Derek, why don't you start us off with the Ika tribe? What's going to happen next on Ika?
I think that Drea and Romeo are deciding to box out Roxroy. I think that if you come to a swap or if you come to any kind of merge and you have Roxroy with you, that could be someone who everyone's annoyed with that just gets voted out, and then you're really down in the numbers and he's not going to be able to help you build social bonds. If they do have as good of a rapport or a good enough rapport with Tori to keep her around, I think they trust her to help them as a duo navigate the mid stages and the later stages of the game. I think it's Roxroy going next on Ika.
Yeah, that's tough. It's either going to be Roxroy or Tori. I have no idea which way they're going to go. It's either going to be, are we just going to kind of roll with this 3 that we have and take out Roxroy, or can you trust Roxroy to be not the brightest person and actually come back and play with you guys?
I have a hot take. I think Dre is going next on that tribe. That's what I think I'm going to say.
I like it.
I don't want to get into any more of that, but that's what I think I'm going to call my shot. Drea is next from this tribe if they lose again.
I like it.
All right, Josh, why don't you take us over to Taku? What's going to happen on Taku?
I don't think they're going to lose, first of all.
Yeah.
So disclaimer there, but I'm still going to keep the same thought that I've had for the last couple of weeks and just still go with Marianne. I feel like since Omer has is not going to have a vote, it's basically going to be up to Jonathan and Lindsay, and they're going to just kind of, we have to go with Marianne and just do it that way.
I agree.
I think it's going to be Marianne as well.
And I'll take a sort of Vatsy. I think Daniel is dunzo. I think Chanel, Lydia, and Mike, but Mike doesn't have his vote. But if he gets it back, I think they're all going to come together and knock Daniel out of the game, and we can say goodbye to my winner pick.
I took a different approach. So last week I said that Chanel was going to be the next to go on that tribe. And even though, we didn't see it happen in this episode, because we didn't get anything post immunity challenge loss, we didn't get a scramble with them, I'm just going to stand pat with what Derek said last week, and I'm going to stick with Chanel. If I was really taking this week into account, I would probably go to Daniel, but it might be better for them to get rid of someone like Chanel, because Daniel's going to keep digging his hole, and you can beat him at the end, and he knows that he has to be loyal if he wants any shot at winning. So I think it could be Chanel.
I'm also going to say Chanel just because you saw 2 moments here between Hai and Mike. One right away after tribal camp that they could be together, and then I'm not sure if you caught it, but after they got to the platform before the puzzle at the immunity challenge, there was actually a little clip of them like basically just like bonding somehow.
Bro hugging, yeah.
Just like, oh man, like you're awesome. Whatever. I don't know what they actually said, but I don't know why, but that. It's almost like a context clue that they're going to be working together in the future. And I think they're going to pressure Daniel into basically feeling like he's indebted to them and force him to work with them to get out Chanel.
I can see that totally. All right. So one of my favorite segments, let's get to who cannot win this game. Dun, 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 dun. Derek, who can't win the game?
Well, it's 2 people. It's down to Roxroy and it's down to Daniel. Both of them have been the losers of this unprestigious award.
Final 2, Roxroy, Daniel. Who's not winning, Derek?
Oh my goodness. I mean,
there's a lot of game left, remember.
Oh my goodness. I think that it would have to be Roxroy at that point. I think that Daniel has done more to hurt his game, but seeing that Roxroy is back to his old tricks, because that's the big change between last episode and this episode. Daniel's still doing the same old thing, but you can't say that Daniel's not trying. Roxroy is clearly not fixing his social game. You don't hear anyone saying that Daniel's social game is bad. It's just he's horrible at the strategic game. So I think that Roxroy can't win.
Josh?
So I don't think that anyone is fully out of this game yet. And I think that anyone still has the chance to win.
Yes.
Commit,
blah,
commit,
blah, blah.
Commit, you coward. That's not the name of the.
I heard you talking about it on the last episode, and I'm like, oh, you guys are just saying this because I'm not on the podcast this week. I heard you say Daniel can't win this game, and I call BS on that.
The whole point of this segment is to just double down and go all in for stupid reasons.
So much like we only see 1% of 1% on the island, Roxroy has 1% of 1% chance of winning this game.
It's generous.
It's that much, but that's all he's got. I think Daniel still has something just because he seems like a good player that cracked under bad situations and did terribly in those situations. But that was only 4 people that he's interacting with. So he's got a plethora of people post-merge that he could get on his side still, and still maybe make amends with other people on his own tribe. So I'm going with Roxroy just because he doesn't actually have the skill set to be able to win.
I agree completely. It's Roxroy. Anything else, you guys?
No, I don't think so.
All right. This has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.